Welcome, everybody. I hope you're having a great Wednesday. We're very pleased to be here today to talk about being dynamic with Sage Intacct Allocations and, of course, as we do every quarter, the release highlights. So let me tell you a little bit about our speaker today. Brent Lee will be presenting, and he's been with LBMC Technology Solutions for 2.5 years. He joined our team with a rich background in finance and accounting. And prior to beginning his consulting career, Brent held various positions in local certified public accounting firms. His roles ranged from accounting supervisor to corporate accounting specialist and staff accountant. Now, in his current role as a Sage Intacct consultant, Brent serves clients in the implementation of Sage Intacct. He is knowledgeable in the areas of integration to third-party applications and has extensive experience analyzing business processes and translating business requirements into technology solutions that provide value. His certifications as a QuickBooks Pro Advisor, a certified Sage Intacct implementer, and certified Sage Intacct accountant further enhance his ability to provide top-notch support to you, our clients. So, without any further ado, Brent, I'm turning the floor over to you.
Thank you, Dawn. And thank you for everybody for joining us today. So let's get started with dynamic allocations. So the overview for dynamic allocations and what we'll be learning today will give you an understanding of the differences between transaction allocations and dynamic allocations. We will show how these type of allocations can streamline your transactions and how you can configure dynamic allocations for use in real-world events. So I will be going through how to set up your dynamic allocations and give you an understanding on how dynamic allocations can be viewed within your system for application within your different environments. Okay. So for transaction allocations is included in your core Intacct subscription at no additional cost for the module. Do know that allocations that are made within your transactions are booked at the time of booking. So when you're doing any type of journal entry or AP bill, you can do your allocations at that time, and that allocations will hit your financial books at time of submitting your transactions. These allocation splits are static. So any transactions that you identify within your split can only be changed if you go in and you update those transaction information. Do know that when you do make any changes, that is proactive. So any applications that you give your allocations to after that update will have effect, but will have no effect on any transactions that have used that transaction ID, as we will discuss within this demonstration. Do know that transaction allocations can be used and referenced within your imports, and you can use these transaction allocations in most modules within Sage Intacct. They can be based off percentages. You can give exact amounts, or you can give a fixed amount with over/under logic within your transactions. So how are your transaction allocations broke down? So you will give the system what your transactions will be. Within this example here, we have these transactions broken down by departments. And we have your 3 departments here, Department A, B, and C, with Department A getting 50% of your transactions, B and C with 25% of your transactions. So whenever you're putting in your journal entry, that journal entry will allocate those transactions based off your percentages that you have submitted to Sage Intacct. Since allocations is the process of spreading or shifting any cost of revenues, there can be a few reasons why you may use your allocations. It allows you to gain a more accurate understanding of costs and profitability that will allow for more informed decisions. And you can also determine how to fund certain expenses and manage and improve shared resources throughout your company. How do you get to transaction allocations? Within the general ledger application, you will go to your general ledger under setup and you will see your transaction allocation. You will give transaction allocations allocation ID. In this example, you see where we have square footage. You will make sure to have, if you need a description, you will give the status and you will give how you want that allocation allocated by. In this example, we give percentages. Do know that when you put in these percentages, they must always equal to 100%. So in this entry where you can see we have location 100, 200, 300, 400, each location is getting a 25% split. That will lead to 100% when you put the allocations within your module. Now, when you put your allocations into your module, you will use the same type of journal entry that you would normally use. You will identify your normal journal information, giving it a journal ID, your regular posting date. You will set up your normal accounts that you will transfer your debits and credits in. And also you will see that allocations drop down. The allocations drop down will allow you to identify and put in the allocation ID that you set up with whatever allocations that you may need to set up for your journal entry. You can have as many allocation IDs as you want, depending on how many allocations your environment shows. Once you put in that allocation ID, you will go down where it says show details on your journal entry, and you can see the allocation split throughout your environment. So we have a debit and credit for $1,000. We have that 25% allocation split. As you can see, the allocation split out those different amounts evenly throughout the locations that you identified in that allocation ID that you set for. Now, not only can allocations be used in journal entries, but allocations can also be used in things like your AP bills for allocations. You can split by dimension. We use location here. As you see below, any dimension that are part of your allocations will be grayed out. You are also able to see the allocation split at the time of creation. As you can see, transactions can be used to see the true cost of your line of business. You can see which projects are losing money. It also gives you the ability to see, are you pricing for profitability? So now we'll be going over dynamic allocations and the power that it can present within your environment. Now, dynamic allocations is a subscription that is required. It facilitates the splitting or movement of amounts within Sage Intacct. And this follows parameters that you define. Transactions are posted to a user-defined book and also a user-defined journal. Then account groups are used to define the account or accounts that are to be allocated. Allocation percentages are defined and based off other data within Intacct. This could be by amounts in any GL account, or you can also use statistical values. Do note that allocation splits happens after transactions are posted, but can be ran at different times. This really separates out the differences between dynamic allocations and transactional allocations, where transaction allocations are presented and it are reflected on your books at the time of posting. Dynamic allocations are generated after postings and you use the amount within your GL accounts or transactional statistical accounts to make the allocations within your environment. This allows for dynamic allocations to be generated on demand, or it can also be scheduled as we will review later within this demonstration. Now, the power of dynamic allocation gives you the ability to better automate your environment. This gives less room for errors It gives you repeatable allocations because those allocations will always be in your environment, ready to be distributed and generated on your schedule. It gives you meaningful percentages, and the system can also adapt to real world updates. It is reliable, consistent, and also accurate. And you are also able to easily trace any of your transactions within intelligent audit trails. And you are also able to compare your options at a glance.
Brent, we have a question which probably goes back to an earlier slide, but
Okay.
does the allocation show the vendor for GL filtering? It didn't do that before, did it?
No, for vendor information that you're putting in the system, it does not go by that vendor information.
Okay, thank you.
Next, as you see, we have a process checklist that must be done within any allocations that you are setting up. First, as we discussed, you must subscribe to dynamic allocations. You can and has to configure your user-defined books and journals. Then you will set your permissions. We will go into how to set up your account allocation definition. And also you can generate that allocation, and you can also verify the allocation as after it has been posted. Within dynamic allocations, first you will have your source allocation. So this will be the source information that you are pulling all of your figures from. So this will be a balance in any GL or off another source base, as we discussed, maybe a statistical value. You will give your basis on how you want that allocation to be distributed within your environment. You will give your targets on what you want that allocation to represent and your target departments that you want that allocation to hit. And then once you generate your allocation, you will be able to review and give the results of your allocation within your books. Once you have this allocation set up, we will go into how to set up that allocation within your environment. And as you will see, it will really streamline and take a lot of time saving from doing your allocations and things like Excel spreadsheets that can bring on errors with, of course, everyone knows setting up different functions and formulas. It can also sometimes give error if those formulas are not producing the right information or bringing over information from the correct columns. So it's good to know that some clients are already using dynamic allocations within your environment. And hopefully, as we go through this, you can see how dynamic allocations will help out and streamline your imports within your Sage Intacct environment for things like reporting information. Okay.
So, Brent, we have another question,
Okay.
and here goes. We are interested in using dynamic allocations on the class dimensions. We have certain classes in Intacct that are overfunded, and we would want those classes to have a negative percentage. The total allocation would still total 100%, but 4 lines would be positive and 2 would be negative. Is that doable with dynamic allocations?
Yes, dynamic allocations is able to have negative percentages. And as we spoke, as long as that percentage, as you said, equals out to 100%, that allocation can be put into the system. Being based off your dimension class, being class, you can identify whatever type of dimension you would like to use within Sage Intacct for your allocation splits. So this can be anything from vendors, departments, locations, and also classes as well. So when you're setting up your allocations, the first thing that we need to do is set up a user-defined book. By posting your allocations to that user-defined allocation book, you can report on pre and post allocation figures. Putting the allocations on a separate book, it allows you to keep your original source GL amounts intact for reports, but use your dynamic allocation figures for separate reporting needs. Do remember that you must select what book to use for your reporting amounts. It may be an accrual or a cash book that is already established in your environment. Having your user defined book being separate of your allocate for your allocations lets you set up different reports in different ways. You might have some reports that you want to show pre-allocations, and you might have some reports that you want to show post-allocations. So this keeps both amounts and both transactions separate for use within your reports, depending on how many reports and your use for reports. So of course, when you go in and you use your financial reporting information, there's a section that it gives you to report on which book you want that report to be used. Normally, it's either accrual or cash, depending on your business needs. And then you can choose to also use that allocation book as well. You have that allocation impact and where you can run your reports that shows all of your pre-allocation information, and then it shows how you want to allocate that information within the subset. And then as in this example, it also gives you the post allocations. So you can see how those allocations were supported, and also you can see where that debit and that credit for those inputs and outputs were created to give you both the same pre and post allocation amounts, but it was just split between these different expenses that you have within the Sage Intacct environment. All of this information of your dynamic allocation information is under that general ledger module within the system under setup. As you can see, we have your account allocation definitions, account allocations groups. And also, as I discussed earlier, this is also where your transaction allocation information is in the system as well. Next, once you have your user-defined books within your Sage Intacct environment, you will create the backbone of your allocations, which will be your account allocation definition. This allocation definition sets into motion where your source information is going to be pulled from, and also it gives the system the roadmap to where you want your allocation information to be held within the system. Within your allocation information, you have your allocation information, and we'll be going through each one of these to give a more detailed view of your allocations. First, you have your rationale, then you have your dimension treatment, your source pool, your basis, and also you have your target information within the system as well. Within your allocation information, first you have your rationale. Your rationale first would include your allocation ID. It is used to create the link back from your GL journal entry, and it also appears in your general ledger detail reports. You also have your description. Your description would be to identify what this allocation definition and these allocations are actually for. You have your methodology, and your methodology allows you to give an understanding on why this was set up in the way that it was set up. And it also gives other individuals who are not the author the rationale to why this methodology was set up within the system. You also have the ability to set up and attach any type of attachments. Say if you have any type of allocation procedures that you want to go by, you can attach that to your different allocation definitions. And as time goes by, you have the ability to either have that status be active or inactive without having to delete out any allocation definitions. You can just go in and set that status from active to inactive if you no longer want to use that allocation ID within your allocation information going forward. Next, you will identify your dimensions. Your dimensions will set up where you want the allocations to be focused on. You are able to have allocations within one entity or across different entities. Once you have that information applied, you can give out the different dimensions that you want your allocations to focus on. In the previous question that we had, as you can see, you have your class information within the system. Now you can tell the system where you want your allocation to focus on. If you want to bring in your balances from a certain location, from a certain vendor or project, also department, you can identify which dimensions you want to have the allocation be focused on. And you can give the system which allocation not to focus on. Do know that the more dimensions that you use within the system, the more detail you can get within your allocation, but you must also make sure that when you're bringing over any transactions, these dimensions also must be identified so you're bringing over the complete amounts that you need within your allocations. Now, within each drop down, you have your allocation focus where you can use the portion fund in the basis for your computation. You can also preserve values and carry those sources proportionally into the resorting entry or not considered. And as I discussed, that just means to skip or provide another specific value dimension override. Once we have our dimensions set up within the system, this is where we'll have our source pool. Now, our source pool will identify where those allocation amounts are coming from. You will have to first set up a account group. Now, anybody that has worked within Sage Intacct financial reporting is very used to it. And with any type of account groups, the account groups are just bringing in over the GL accounts that you want your GL balances to come from. Now, you can also see the percentage to allocate. Now, this percentage to allocate does not have to be 100. You can bring over any type of amount percentage that you want to allocate. Say if you want to just allocate 50% of your expenses that you identify within your account group for allocations, you are able to do that within the Sage Intacct module. Do know that even if you're only bringing over one GL account, you will have to also create an account group for that lonely GL account that you're setting up for your allocations. Now, you will also identify your reporting book. As I discussed earlier, you have your main reporting book. In this example, we have accruals, and you can set up your alternate books as well. You tell the system your source pool. So your source pool period will be either current period, or you have the options for things like prior month, prior period, prior year information that you want to bring over. You can then narrow your allocations by scope in the dimension filter. You have your true up, you have your activity delta. If the amount that's being used in the early allocation and you're using this allocation for multiple times throughout the month or throughout the period, you can use and true up those amounts based off the last allocations that you're doing. And then you can, based on how many allocations you're doing for that month, it will not bring over prior period amounts that you've already used for allocations in the prior period. And then you will see your dimension filter. This dimension filter gives where you want those allocations to come from. Here we're using the entity location and departments, and that was also identified in that department field that we just went over in the previous slide. Once you have your source pool where you're bringing over all of your information from, you will give the basis of your dynamic allocations. So this allocations, first you would have to give the allocation method. As we discussed, the method can be coming from your financial accounts, or it can be relative to your statistical accounts. So maybe head counts, cases open, products on hand, or anything that you want to base those dimensions off of. You would give that allocation method. Again, you would give that account group, the accumulation, so it can be your activity for the prior month. You will also use your amounts, and you can identify where you're bringing your amounts from. You have your main reporting books, and you have your alternate books, as you may have. You have your basis time period. And here's where you have the option to either drop or include negative basis lines for consideration. So when we're saying if you can have negative information within your accounts for allocations, this is where you can either decide to include those negative lines or not include those negative lines in the system as well. Then for your basis, we also have where you will include your different dimensions that you want to use within the system for your basis information as well. Next, you will tell the system where you want to target your entry. So where is the final target that you want to put those allocation information within the system? Here we identify that alternate book, so that allocation user defined book that we discussed. You will select that allocation group if you want that separate allocations to go into that user defined book. Also, the type of journal entry is within Sage Intacct. You have different type of journals for different modules and journal types, and you can identify which journal you want those allocations to go to. And also, you can say what account those allocations are coming from. You also have your reversing source pool. So if you want within your allocations to keep those GL balances intact, or if you want those to reverse out of your source account for allocations within your other departments. So if you have your credit accounts and you have your debits that you're pulling out from, you can tell the system to use that source account that you identified, or if there's another account that you want those allocations to come out of, this is where you will put that account to be reflected when you do that transaction. Okay. Do know that within dynamic allocations, there might be instances where you want to bring over multiple allocations within dynamic allocations. Usually when set up, there is multiple allocation IDs that you may set up because of course it's based off of different percentages and different source pools and allocation pools. Once you have that information set up, Sage has made it easy within the system where you can import those allocation definitions. So as you can see where we have those account allocation definitions, you have the ability to import or export those allocations. If you need to create multiple allocations definitions, you can create your allocation definition. You can export those allocations and know, of course, when you're importing any information within Sage Intacct, it must be a CSV file. And you can use that to modify and duplicate in Excel within the system for import within the system. This also allows you to create and identify new definitions as needed within the system. Okay. Once you created your allocation definition, you tell the system where and when to allocate that information. So as you can see, this allocation information is under that general ledger. All account allocation is under generate allocations. You tell the system what will be your GL posting date, and you will tell the system where to email once that allocation definition is completed. Also within your allocation ID, you might have individual allocations that you want to run one on a one-on-one basis. Also, you might have a group of allocations. So your group allocations can be meant that you have certain allocations that are already dependent on other allocations. Whereas you can see if you select group allocations, you have that member pool under it, and you can give that group allocation basis on how many allocations you want to run. So you may have allocations that are dependent on other allocations that you created within the system. You are able to place those allocations as members, and you are able to adjust and move up and down those allocation information and know that the reference for those allocations, the top member gets run first, and then any other allocation IDs under it will run after that allocation is done within the system. Once you have that allocation generated, You will have your allocation log. Now, this allocation log will tell you the as of and the GL posting date, what email that posting date was, when it was ran, and also it will give you the status of pass or fail. Now, there may be instances within the system where there might not be any GL information within the system. You might not, for allocation ID, have the correct dimension information, or there might not be a balance within either your statistical information that you're bringing your allocations over, or there might not be any information within your GL accounts. So that might be one example of why something might fail within the system. And that's easy to view. You're able within the status to see what the information is and make any updates to any of the processes that needs to be updated, and then you're able to rerun your allocations based off your split. Once it passes the allocation within the system, you'll be able to go in and view that journal entry through that view log that you see on your right hand side within your allocation log. So you will definitely know if the allocation was successful or if there are some updates that you need to make within your allocations to update and make that allocation pass the status based off your allocation ID information. Okay. Now, within dynamic allocations, there's a few considerations that you have. Within dynamic allocations, you are able to view your impact on reports that are able to be ran. And also, since all of your allocations are found in that user-defined book, you're able to identify any discrepancies you may have. Do know that allocation entries can only be deleted from the allocation log that we viewed. And when testing journal entries, they can also be deleted and reran if those allocations aren't reflecting any correct numbers. But do know that those numbers are coming from allocations that you identify. So all you would have to do is update those allocation ID preferences within those allocation ID stages. It might be your allocation source pools. It might be a GL account or account group that's not pulling correct. So once you update that and fix it, do know that it will be fixed for coming different types of allocations. I do know that you're able to duplicate the allocation ID. Since these are system generated IDs, they cannot be edited or reclassified. So once they have been put into the system based off of your parameters, they are within the system. Allocation definition edits are controlled after allocations to, of course, preserve the audit trail. You have duplicate the allocation ID and you can modify a new allocation definition if needed. And do know that just like your transaction allocations, any edits that you may have to the definitions will only impact future calculations. They will not go back to prior allocations that was ran previously. Now, some different type of ideas or other ways that allocations can be used within the system. You have where allocations can be used as a cross-currency allocation. Do know that the currency in the source entity would determine the transaction currency that will be used for your allocations. So you can allocate different currencies from one entity or one dimension and have that be updated within the system based off that base currency. So you'll be able to allocate any type of currency transactional at the end of the month based off of the currency detail that's needed within your different entities. This is very big, especially for individual that has a lot of inter-entity transactions within entities with different currency bases. You also have and can use dynamic allocations for project billing. If your billing is part of your project and costing module and it has been enabled, you can have dynamic allocations to flag entries for your project billing. That could be used for areas where you want to allocate overhead as a billable transaction, or if you have cost plus billing. Do know that some configurations must be required within the system. As we saw within the system, You have your additional configuration will be used in your user-defined journal when you set up allocation information. And as you can see within that user-defined journal information, you have the ability to enable project billing. So that project billing will be enabled. And once you have that project billing enabled in the system, you can use that for project billing and allocating costs within that project. Also within Sage Intacct, there's certain other procedures that allocation can be used for. You can use it as a data mover, so you're not splitting anything. You might just at the end of the month need to move balances from one account to another account. So you can use that within Sage Intacct using dynamic allocations. You could also apply multipliers within your information. So if you have cost plus for certain GL information that you want to move, we identify within Sage Intacct that within dynamic allocations, when we pull those sources, we had that percentage be 100%. But unlike transactional allocations, you can use more than 100% if you need a multiplier to pass through your Sage Intacct within your different accounts. Of course, you can use it for classic allocations. And as we discussed, you also have the option to use allocations to build upon each other within the Sage Intacct environment. Next, we will go through our R2 release, but do know that within Sage Intacct University, there is a robust dynamic allocation courses that can also be taken within the system. So of course, Sage Intacct has 4 releases throughout the calendar year. We will now discuss the release for R2, the new features that is in Sage Intacct that will help the clients across the North America with any complex issues that we will see throughout the environment. Sage Intacct is very adept in trying to update modules and create a better and more efficient way to handle your day-to-day business within Sage Intacct. For this R2 release, the major themes within Sage Intacct, within this release and the parameters, we're focused on strengthening in your financial information, giving industry insight, so concentrating on certain industries, as you will see things like construction within this update, automating capabilities within Sage Intacct, and also giving the platform more scalability within the system in there as well. The first update that we will focus on will be Sage Copilot. Within Sage Copilot, Subledger Reconciliation Assistant has been updated for early adopters, and we will, at the end of this presentation, show you how you can become an early adopter. An early adopter are certain environments that Sage Intacct will introduce new updates within the system before the Sage Intacct gives that update to the rest of the client's environment. So you, as an early adopter, would get a first look at any new updates within the system. For Sage Copilot, we have a Subledger Reconciliation Assistant. Now, this reconciliation assistant speeds up your Subledger reconciliation process within Sage Intacct. It gives you automation, so it can automate time-consuming reconciliation tasks. It allows your finance team and your department to focus on more strategic priorities rather than the manual reconciliation that are done on a month-to-month basis. It allows you to quickly identify any entities that have a discrepancy, and you will see that at a glance. And it will also give you drill down insight to variances that you can see on a transactional level within Sage Intacct. So how Sage Intacct Copilot works is it will go through certain steps within after your close process. So we'll scan entries to see if there's any variance between your subledger and your GL and let you know if any variances were found. It will provide some guidance to help you navigate the variance, and it will generate a subledger reconciliation report that you can use to reconcile your information. So it is giving your AP balance and your GL balance and showing you different variances that you may have within your different entities. And also it's giving you possible reasons for those variances within the system. Also, instead of having to go back and forth between those two accounts, your GL balance and your AP balance, it gives you that reconciliation at a glance. And then you can go in and make any type of updates or any type of reconciling journal entries that needs to be made, or to identify any bills that needs to be updated within the system. So your GL balance and your AP balance can reconcile between the two. So this Copilot really streamlines your reconciliation and hopefully takes some of the tedious visuals, as you can see, within your reconciliation and make that mainstream and give a more time saving back to yourself.
And
Mhm.
Brent, why don't you give a brief description of what Sage Copilot is?
Sage Copilot allows the system and gives the system really a more of an AI type of instance, where Sage Copilot acts as your first defense on any type of variances that you may have within the system. So it gives you insight, and it gives the system and yourself within the environment more of automated instances where you can use Copilot to identify any variances or anything that you may have in the environment within Sage Copilot to identify any type of discrepancies that you may have. It's better than using reports because they're based off of your past history, and as you go in and make any adjustments within your system on a period-to-period basis, Copilot would take those insights and based off of any type of information from your history, it will get more concise information as time goes by based off of different transactions that you have in the system, and it will better understand your environment, any discrepancies you may have. And as time goes by, it'll be able to acclimate within those different type of transactions. And as you go by in the using Copilot, it will be able to parse out these variances when using that for better identification as time goes by. So it really learns with you as you go through using Copilot. The longer that you use it, it's able to identify better mainstream information.
And a follow-up question to that, Brent, is how do you turn on Copilot?
Identify Copilot right now is for early users. Within Copilot, within your platform services, you're able to use Copilot and turn it on within the system. If you need any direction on how to do that, we will can help any clients that needs help on turning that on, and we can get that needed information procedures. That
And Brent, I believe you have some information on how anyone on this call could seek to be an early adopter. That's coming up, right?
Yes, yes, that's on the end of our presentation today, and it'll detail how to become an early user within the system.
Great, thank you.
So as you can see, Sage Copilot can be very instrumental in streamlining your information and just helps to verify any variances that you have before you have to go in and get more detail, but at least you have a basis of the variances that you're looking for within the system. Speaking of early adopters, we also have AP automation with purchasing. AP automation with purchasing, it streamlines your transaction entries by automatically creating draft transactions for documents that you email or upload. Sage Intacct will identify the vendor and fill in certain transaction details for you, such as location, department, or item IDs. When you have automation enabled for both transactions with matching and transactions without matching, AI will first look for your transaction match. If AI cannot predict a match, it will identify the document type and draft for your non-matching transactions. With this update, you can configure your transaction definitions to automate your transactions. You can also change the transaction type for incorrect predictions. So if using this AI automation, it makes an incorrect prediction, you can easily update that transaction. And like we said for Copilot, since it's machine learning module, it will improve for future predictions as it goes along, period by period. So you get both the benefits of both automated transaction matching and also non-matching transactions. And it gives you the ability for that option to, if you just want to match one, or if you want to match different type of identities. With your automation, within AP, automation with purchasing, also updated your support for advanced audit trails. So for companies that use advanced audit trails, you can now subscribe to AP automation, including an extension to purchasing to automate any type of incoming transactions that you may have. The advanced audit trail, it then tracks personal data stored in contacts, customers, and vendor records to comply with any data protection that you may have, especially when you're dealing with protection laws like HIPAA. Also, you have the change in sequence numbering requirements. Document sequencing numbering is no longer required for transaction definitions that you select to automate. This just gives you a more flexibility with automation, and it allows you to add document numbers after the draft is created. So you can draft and then update your sequence numbers as needed within the system. Sage Intacct has also updated the import service. So the new benefits of the import service provides expanded capabilities. So you can import from multiple tabs using formulas and extra columns. You are now able to have real-time errors. So you are able to see those errors in real time displayed either at the field level, and it can also be used for corrections within your final import before you do your final import. And you can also use the find and replace to correct any errors. You can search for specific values and you can search by specific errors. Since importing data is a very critical function for accountants and partners, Sage is really making it easier with the new import service. Instead of sending your data into the blank box, and we've all done this, where we have created that CSV file, imported into the system, and then just crossed our fingers hoping that it was successful and waiting for the error via email, you now have the dedicated import workspace that will give you a real-time visibility and control. As you can see with this spreadsheet-like interface, you can import files. Like I said, you can see errors on that field and you can make corrections on the spot. The new import service is now only generally available for a limited set of import types, and import types will increase as time goes by. And it also helps to redefine the way that you manage your imports and make it more efficient in the accuracy and the ease of use of importing information within the system. Sage Intacct has also updated your supplies workflow. With this supplies workflow, it gives you now an ordering link that allows you to place bulk orders with suppliers, and that can be used to accommodate the needs for different type of product delivery dates, or you can keep extra supplies on hand for multiple departments. When a requested item is not in stock with a specific supplier, your company can choose to allocate items from an existing purchase order from a different supplier. This linking request to standing purchases orders can save costs with volume purchasing, and it can also speed up procurement for your efficiencies. So with this new supplier link functionality, it reduces the amount of manual data entry, and it also expedites the fulfillment of supply requests. And it also can identify purchase orders with a surplus of quantities. You can allocate items on a pre-order to higher priority requests, and also request items that are no longer needed within Sage Intacct. Sage Intacct has also updated functionality in the accounts payable module, as we will review. First, with joint checking. If you handle bills from vendors who subcontract portions of their work and you need to pay both parties, you will love the joint check payment method. It is now available within accounts payable. For example, say if you receive a bill from a vendor who uses 3 different subcontractors to complete the work, after you create the bill, you can add each subcontractor as a joint payee. The joint payee print as field shows who each check is going to be paid to, and which by default is the primary vendor. And also you can see who is the subcontractors within the system. When you pay the bill using joint check as the payment method, you can specify the amount to pay each joint check payee. Because, as our example, we had bills with 3 joint payees, and you enter the amount to pay for each one, Intacct will generate 3 payment requests. When you print checks, 3 checks are printed. The payee name printed on each check reflects the corresponding joint payee printed name from the bill. Also within accounts payable, we have listened to your ideas, and this was submitted for an idea within Sage Intacct within the community. And this idea has now been updated within Sage Intacct. So do know that your ideas that are submitted are reviewed. And if there is enough votes for that idea, Sage Intacct will work to bring that in releases that are coming forth. With this idea, we have a new introduction of a new warning feature that will enhance your control over voiding payments and also help avoid unintended changes to transactions as you've already reconciled against the bank. Now, when you try to void a reconciled payment, and this can be a manual payment or an AP advance, Sage Intacct will notify you that transaction has already been reconciled. And this notification allows you to make an informed decision on whether to proceed, or it also allows you to cancel that operation if needed within the system as well. Now we have also new permissions with importing posted adjustments within the system. Users within the system must have the permissions to add adjustments and post permissions. They've updated the CSV import for AP adjustments to force the permissions within the system. This change provides a greater security and control over your financial data. So by requiring specific post permissions, you can ensure only authorized users within Sage can import posted transactions. And this will protect your financial data from any unauthorized changes. So this update aligns with permissions required for the CSV import requirements in other areas within Sage Intacct. This just improves the consistency within your environment, but do know that users without post permissions can still import transactions as a draft. This is just provided that they have the add permissions within their user permissions fields. Okay. Once that transaction is added as a draft, then users that have the ability to update that transaction can go in and update that transaction to post it. We also have a new rule type for users within bill approval. This just updates the way that you add approval users to your bill approval policy. And this just goes by to remove any type of clutter from the rule type list and make approvals policies easier to view as a scan. The rule type column, which previously included both rule types and users with bill approval permissions, now only contains only one rule type. To add a named user, all you have to do is select the new user level rule type. Then in the new user level column, all you will have to do is select an approver from the list of users with that bill approval permissions. So you will give it the user type, and then you will also be able to give which user can be used for that approval process in that drop-down information. There's also been changes within accounts payable based off the special characters restricted in certain areas. So we've updated the allowed fields and characters that can be used within the system. The special characters that you see are not supporting AP terms or AP accounts labels. If you try to save an AP term or an AP account label with one of these special characters, Sage Intacct will give you an error message. To save your records, you will just have to remove that special character first and then resubmit your transaction. Do know that these new restriction on characters is also reflected in the AR module for AR terms and also account labels in the AR module as well. Do note that account IDs within both modules should never have special characters. It will not pass within the module and it will give you an error within Sage Intacct, both in your accounts payable and your accounts receivable modules within the system. Next, we will go to accounts receivable. So coming soon, Sage Intacct is excited to announce the ability to record customer refunds and accounts receivable. Customer refunds will help to streamline your refund management process. This will ensure that your refunds that you initiate outside of Sage Intacct are accurately documented, and also that those refund credits are also cleared. This helps to eliminate that tedious work of creating balancing adjustments for refund credits. Instead, with this update, you can record the amount refunded and pay the available credits simply by selecting them within the system. On the new customer refund page, you will be able to record a refund using the record transfer payment method. You will be able to enter that amount you refunded and match it to the customer's available credit. You will do that by selecting from the customer's available advances. You can also use adjustments, overpayments, or any type of negative invoices, and you can apply that amount either partially or in full. Upon posting within Sage, Sage will automatically clear the selected credits, keeping the customer's account up to date within the system. Do know that within this update, the customer refund will only support the record transfer payment method only. As reviewed, the credits supported will be used for AR adjustments, negative invoices, overpayments, and any advances. There are also sorting and filtering options that will help you find those credits within your system. You can refund the credit in full or in part within this update. Do note that invoices that include positive line items are not available for refund, even if they have a negative amount within the invoice. Do know that only base currency to base currency are supported within this refund system. And do know that customer refunds are also supported, and if you want to use the CSV import within Sage Intacct. Also within the updates within your AR module, we have the entity billback now supports your child location. So when you're creating an invoice using your billback template, you can now select child location in the line items. Sage Intacct will now refer to that parent entity to find the associated vendor, and then the corresponding bill will be created within Sage Intacct for that vendor associated with that parent entity. Do know that on this update, there's a few things that needs to be included in the view, that all line items location in the invoice must share the same parent entity when the billback template is applied. Do know that any bills that are created in accounts payable shows the entity as a location rather than the child. But as long as that entity record specifies the associated vendor, you can use that entity's child location for the line item on invoices with that billback template. There's no additional setup that is required to use the child location on invoices. So you're ready to set that up whenever you need to do that inter-entity bill payback. Do know that also within Sage Intacct, if there are updates that are not viewed as always being the best way and most efficient way, Sage Intacct will postpone some updates. As you can see, when this retirement received a payment, it has been postponed. They've listened to feedback from clients using Sage Intacct, and they're pausing the retirement of the received payment. They are working to make that page easier for use and to be more efficient. Do know that when that page is perfected within the experience and is up to the standards of Sage Intacct, you will be notified that transactions can now be updated within the system for that retirement received payment.
So, Brent, we don't have a question, but we have a comment. We get advances that sometimes need to be refunded. This would be so helpful. So I think that is referring to a couple of slides ago.
Yeah, and we've seen that with multiple environments that those advances in transactions. So this will definitely help within Sage Intacct. And also within Sage Intacct, do know that as we go through these updates within your R2 release, our release notes are on the home page of your environment. So once you open up your home page, you will see all of these releases that we're going through on this presentation. Within that page, you're able to click each individual release within this release too, and it'll give you a more detailed view on how those releases are updated. Also, some releases will also have a video that will give an overview of those releases, and it will give you a more detailed on steps to how to incorporate these releases or where to find these releases in multiple modules that you may have within the system. So we're going through the overview as well, but Sage Intacct has also provided a more detailed view that you can find in each of your environments. And also, if you want to look at prior releases and prior periods, you're also able to look at prior releases to better and making sure that your environments are being used up to their capabilities. So next, within your accounts receivable information, we have where extra credits can be included in inter-entity AR statements. You can align your entity level AR statement balances with your AR ledger and AR age reports by showing credits that you apply from other entities. Previously within Sage, all external credits applied to transactions in the entity show in reports, but only advances and overpayments show in the AR statements ran at that entity level. So you are able to see credits that are applied throughout other entities within your Sage Intacct information now. So when you select the show external credits in the AR statement filter, Sage Intacct now includes any adjustments and negative invoices owned by other entities that were applied during that previous section. Okay. Also within accounts receivable, there has been permissions updates when reported posted transactions, and we also saw within AP module. Since when doing any CSV import for AR invoices and AR adjustments, they have updated permissions required for importing posted transactions. By requiring a specific post permissions, you can update and make sure that all of your financials are coming in correctly. I do know, just like the AP environment, any users without the post permissions can still update transactions, but it would just be as a draft within the transaction, and it will have to be updated within the system. Also, a reflection of accounts payable within the AR updates, you now have the new warning of reversing any transaction that has been already reconciled within the system. So when you try to reverse a customer advance, Sage Intacct will notify you that transaction has already been reconciled. This notification will also give you a more in-depth on procedures, and it allows you to cancel that operation. And if you have the option to either go ahead and select OK to reverse, or you have also the ability to cancel that. The next module that we will review that has been updated with the R2 release is the cash management module. Since 2024, release 2, there have been enhancements to the bank transaction import process, and this just is help to boost your efficiency. Many of you have already switched over to the new bank transaction assistant file import and are enjoying the benefits. However, there are still some that's using the older classic import method. This is an announcement that Sage Intacct plans to retire the classic import method no earlier than May of 2026. So please make sure that you keep an eye out for the update about a specific date and any type of upcoming release. If you have not made that switch yet, definitely now is the time to do. Transitioning to a new method will allow you to take full advantages of the features that we offer. This change does not impact any custom integrations that you may use when using an Intacct API. Okay. In this update, it introduces a fresh approach to importing. All of your transactions now appear in a centralized location for all your accounts within your bank transaction page. Transactions that you import remain in Sage Intacct even after the reconciliation is made. Multiple file formats are supported. That just gives you an extra flexibility for your bank reconciliation information. You can also increase control on who imports bank transactions using permissions, and also any new import activity list just provides more insight. And this is definitely for clients that are using the credit card transaction for reconciliation, where it updates the import for your credit card transactions. If you want to learn more, you can go into Sage Intacct and view the import credit card transaction module. Also within cash management, you are now able to classify the GL accounts for credit card transactions that are reconciled or are in the paid or partially paid state, as long as the period is open. And you can now edit any non-financial information in the paid credit card transaction. Reclassify the top level transactions from the top level and entity transactions from within the entity. However, you cannot reclassify across different entities. If you have a multi-entity or multi-currency company, make sure that you always reclassify that transaction at that entity level. For clients that are using the consolidation subscription, Sage Intacct is introducing a new affiliate entity standard dimension. It's generally available in 2025 in this release to customers with the consolidation subscription. With the affiliate entity dimension, Sage Intacct will automatically tag automated inter-entity journal entries. You can now use the affiliate entity dimension to manually tag that journal ledger journal entry. And by enabling the affiliate entity dimension tagging, you can improve that enhancement on all of your inter-entity activity and your balance information. You can review the detail when you run your dimension balance, general ledger, financial reports, and it just gives you a more granular for your eliminations, and it tracks all of your inter-entity activity. When you do that affiliate entity tagging, you can get the balance on accounts by the affiliate entity dimension value. For example, if you have a management company that has an entity and then it has an entity receivable for, say, 10 to 15 entities, you can use that affiliate entity dimension to report on that inter-entity activity This allows you to reconcile against that inter-entity payable for all 15 entities. You can do all this just by using one inter-entity receivable and one inter-entity payable account. You would use that inter-entity dimension to automate that elimination in your consolidations just by eliminating the activity between the entities in that same reporting book. You can also use that affiliate entity in both domestic, global, and any advanced ownership consolidations that you may have. Since auto since it auto eliminates across more complex direct and entity information in the advanced ownership consolidation, it also simplifies your entity mapping. And it just does this by leveraging the affiliate entity dimension so you can identify all of your do tos and do froms within your inter-entity transaction. So you can use that in areas as your general ledger, your budget, your consolidations, any reporting information that you may have when you're using your consolidation for your entity transactions within Sage Intacct.
So, Brent, we had a question come in about AP and AR, and I'm wondering if you can comment on this. The comment is it would be nice to have the availability to move AR and AP transactions from an incorrect period to the correct period. For example, a cash receipt is posted on 5/1/2025, and it should have been posted on 4/25/2025.
First thing, you have to make sure that all periods are updated within the system that are open. Dawn, if you would like to keep that on record, we can help out that client after the meeting to get the needed information they may need for that type of transaction.
Awesome, I will do that.
Also within Sage Intacct, previously for time and expense, there were just one single application. Time and expenses are now split into two individual applications, one for time and one for expenses. You can see the subscription still includes both applications, but you can access them now using different menus. This change just ensures that features within both modules are easy to find within Sage Intacct. But do know that the time and expense application, they each have their own separate set of permissions. So you have to go in and assign appropriate permissions to users who can complete whatever task that needs in both modules. Sage Intacct has also updated their features for use in mobile applications. The Sage Intelligent Time mobile app, it now supports employee expense automation, so you can capture receipts, submit expense reports, and also approve and decline them for your mobile device. This enhancement aims to boost efficiency, reduce error, and help to reimburse employees at a quicker state. Previous to Sage Intacct Time mobile app only allowed you to manage timesheets and time clocks only. Now you can use Sage Intacct within the system mobile app, and you can use this to create, edit, delete, split, or submit any type of expense reports. You can create and edit time clocks, create and submit timesheets. You can also approve and decline expense reports and timesheets, and also upload, edit, and delete any expense receipts that you may have within the system. Sage Intacct has also continued to update their fixed asset report. Now, this is a module that's dear to my heart, as many of the other LBMC consultants may know. The last release that we introduced transferring assets within the entity. This release, Sage has expanded that functionality support transfers between entities. It also added the ability to revert a transfer, improve the handling of transfer journal entries for multiple books, and added a transfer detail page. You can now transfer assets between entities and locations that share the same base currency. When you go in to transfer between entities, Sage Intacct will automatically create inter-entity transfer journal entries to keep your general ledger account accurate. And it also syncs with your fixed asset module, removing any of the needed manual updates. Now, do know that it only assets created at the top level can be transferred between entities. Entities involved in transfer must use the same base currency, and also the transfer, the asset must be in the ready for review or the in service state. Sage Intacct has also added two depreciation methods to help with compliance for tax in regions as Australia, Canada, South America, and also United Kingdoms. Sage Intacct has also included new depreciation standards where we have the custom declining balance with true up and also customer declining balances without true ups. These methods allow you to customize the depreciation rate applied to assets under a declining balance method. And this just goes to provide a greater flexibility and manage your assets easier. Sage Intacct has also added depreciation row 4 reports to the fixed asset management reports package. The depreciation row 4 report provides just a detailed view of changes in accumulated depreciation for your fixed assets over a specific and specified period. It shows the beginning accumulated depreciation balance, depreciation expense recorded during the period, and the accumulated depreciation balance at the end, so you can reconcile the differences. Sage Intacct is also excited to announce that there are also interactive custom report providers, so ICRW. Reports are now supported by fixed asset management. They've added pre-built reports are already in ICRW for fixed assets, for title assets, depreciation, and also net book value. So that has been added to this ICRW report library just to help you analyze fixed asset data quickly and accurately. But you can also build your own custom reports using fixed asset management, and you're going to use that object within the ICRW to meet your financial goals within Sage Intacct. Also within projects, we have our time and material summary totals and an increased expense capability. We've updated the project contract billing and projects, so now you can generate invoices with a new workflow that lets you manually refresh your summary totals and increase your number of expenses, and also increase to the maximum number of expenses allowed in each transaction type. Went from 2,000 to 4,000. This just means that more expense tracking capability and improved performances when calculating your large project information. Starting May 2025, all customers who send emails using custom domain must authenticate and validate their domain with the enhanced email delivery service. This is a requirement that will help to transaction your information and is non-negotiable. So this is why this is important, is it allows you to authenticate your domain and it helps to make sure that all email communication is secure. It improves the deliverability of your emails. It also reduces the chances of messages being marked as spam. It protects your domain by being used for phishing attacks or other fraudulent activities. And also it aligns with best practices for email security and compliance. If any help is needed with updating this within your system, just feel free to reach out to either your project manager, your account manager, for any help or any detailed instructions that may be needed. Within contracts, there's a new WIP history page that shows data for all of your schedules. You can see your historical trends and create customized sets data for analysis. With the WIP history page, you are now able to export the schedule data using an improved export process to export any information that you may see for your historical projects for your work in progress management. You are also able to generate lien waivers for any secondary vendors for AP bills, for all payments and joint checks. You're able to generate additional invoices lien waivers. You can see that within the checkbox and generate any additional payment liens within the system. By selecting this checkbox to generate an additional lien waiver for secondary vendors whenever you create an invoice and generate a lien waiver for the primary vendor. This secondary vendor lien waiver is identical to the primary vendor lien waiver. Within the payment lien waivers, you can just select to generate for joint check payment methods or to not generate at all. You have that option where you can select to generate secondary lien waivers for all payments in that as well. Also within your updates, we have updates to financial reports. Now, when you save a report in your financial report writer, Intacct will analyze your report and potentially offer recommendations to make the report run faster, or based on the nature of the report, Intacct might suggest a better way to accomplish your goal. When you save a report within the financial writer, you'll see a message if Intacct finds any of the following in your reports: more than 12 columns within your reports, 4 more expanded columns or rows, an expanded column with a to-date reporting period such as prior year to date, a column that's expanded by the dimension with more than 100 values. The message will also contain suggestions on how to optimize your report. If you're running any data analysis that goes beyond a simple report, running the report offline can be the best option. Also, a different reporting tool might work better, and Intacct will provide links so you can learn more about them within the report that Sage Intacct will show. You also have the ability, if you don't want this optimized for your financial reports, you can always click the do not show me. With the updates also comes new training and new videos for review. As you can see, we have new training videos for getting started with Interactive Visual Explorer and IVE. And also we have new videos for our different applications in cash management, expenses, and IVE as well. If any of these modules are modules that you use on a day-to-day basis, please make sure that you review the new training videos that have been offered. As we discussed in the presentation, Sage Intacct gives an early adopter program that provides the new Sage Copilot subledgers assistant that we reviewed. The early adopter program works closely with Sage production managers, and they focus on things that matter. If you would like to be considered for an early adopter, there is a survey that we can supply to you to fill out as well. Next, we have questions and answers, but first, I believe we want to go through some vendor payment and AP automation information.
Thanks, Brett. Now, we have AvidXchange as our sponsor for today's hot topics. And I wanted to share a little bit about AvidXchange. And they've been a friend of LBMC Technology Solutions for a long time. They are based in Charlotte, North Carolina. We've been on their facilities. They have sponsored other events. And for those of you who will be attending Sage Future, I know that they're going to have a booth there and that they will be at our dinner. And I'll have more information on the dinner in just a little bit. But AvidXchange helps Sage users with a simple, streamlined, and more secure way to process invoices and make payments with flexible approval workflows. AvidXchange for Sage includes a paperless process with configurable two-way and three-way PO matching that offers next-level data syncing, including invoicing imaging and custom dimensions. And by using AvidPay solutions, you'll benefit from reduced payment processing costs, helping you take your ROI to the next level. And one of the things I love about AvidXchange being a sponsor is that they are always so very good to the audiences within our webinars. And you can see at the bottom of the slide that there is a QR code. And if you click on that QR code and complete the survey, everybody can be a winner. Complete the survey and you'll get a Starbucks gift card. And then from there, everybody will be entered into a drawing to win a $250 Amazon gift card. So they ask that you complete this by June 13th. Now, keep in mind, we have Sage Future between now and then. It's probably the sooner the better so that we don't forget about it. And AvidXchange will be contacting you if you are a winner. And if you at least do the survey, you can win that Starbucks gift card. And you'll be notified by email the week of June 16th. So please take advantage of that. And we're very proud to have Avid as a sponsor. Next slide. So I mentioned that at Sage Future, we will be having a client dinner, and it's a free night on Wednesday, June 4th, and it will be at Thrive, which is not that far from the Georgia. Brent, help me out here. Is it the Georgia Congressional Center? Is that what it's called?
The Georgia Congressional Congress Center.
Georgia Congressional Center. Yeah. So it's not that far away. It is a brisk walk or a very quick Uber or Lyft ride. And be sure to RSVP. I noticed that my slide doesn't have the RSVP. Oh, Martha, thank you. It's the World Congress Center. That is the location. And I don't have an RSVP link in here. That's my bad, but I will certainly send one out in the follow-up to this webinar. And please join us. We're going to have a delicious three-course meal. It will be a wonderful time for networking. AvidXchange, Green Shades, and one sponsor is not showing. This is an old image. Velixo will be on hand. They're not going to do any presentations. They're just going to be mingling and enjoying dinner with us. Also at Sage Future, don't miss these sessions. I think the highest form of flattery that is second only to our clients being very happy with the services and support that we provide is the recognition that we get from Sage Intacct. And we have 3 of our consultants who have been selected to present at Sage Future. Angela Payne will be presenting on unlocking in-depth financial insights with Sage Intacct, and that will include month-end close made easy, step-by-step tips, and time-saving shortcuts for new users. So if there's someone on your team that isn't quite as proficient on Sage Intacct as they'd like to be, that would be a great session for them to attend. Or actually, those are 2 sessions. And helping Angela on the month-end close made easy is going to be Shay Simpson. And she'll also be giving her tips and talking about the time-saving shortcuts for new users. And then finally, Beth Woodall, who has, if you look at that link that I gave you for the Hot Topics playlist, Beth has been a Hot Topics presenter in the past. She's going to be talking about hybrid billing and tracking consumption usage with Sage Intacct. Also, you don't have to be attending Sage Future, but if you find yourself in the Atlanta area, maybe you live there, or maybe you're going to be there for other business or pleasure or graduations, please feel free to join us on Wednesday, June 4th. We'd love to have you there. All right. Yes, and Martha points out we love meeting our clients in person. There's nothing better than to put a face and a person with the voice that helps you over the phone. So we hope that you will take advantage of that. And then, as promised, we have a little bit of time left for Q&A. Brent, let me know if these are some questions that you can answer or if we need to address these after the webinar.
Okay.
So, how do you measure, as a consultant, how do you measure the success of a Dynamics allocation implementation? And what time or cost savings have your clients typically achieved?
I think the success comes in time, as we saw within the poll question. We have individuals that are taking 2 to 3 days in doing their allocations probably within Excel. Being able to do that within just a click of the button both saves time for month end closing, which usually is the time that this information is being held, or just freeing up day-to-day time for other ventures within the information. Our clients that I've done dynamic allocations all have been very happy within doing that because they don't have to keep that robust Excel spreadsheet. So on my end, just having clients being able to free up time to do other daily activities and help them streamline their dynamic allocations from Excel spreadsheets or whatever spreadsheet applications they're using, and being able to use that within Sage Intacct where their other financial information is held is a great aspect I think dynamic allocations brings to both the clients and both myself, in seeing the clients being able to use their information and use Sage Intacct at the full applications that Sage Intacct can use. Since Sage Intacct is such a powerful product, ERP system, having all of your information maintained in one environment, I think is great for any finance and accounting team.
That's such a great point, Brent. Anytime you can exchange manual, repetitive, often tedious work with automation, and then being able to take that time saved and focus on strategic matters, a lot more job fulfillment and a lot more benefit to the organization. That's a really good point. Here's another question. We're not ready yet, but how long generally does it take to set up dynamic allocations?
Usually dynamic allocations is set up depending on how many allocations you have. First, we'll go in and review your current procedures within the dynamic allocations. Usually it takes somewhere between 2 to 4 meetings. So it just depends on your calendar. It could take a few weeks or it could take a month depending on any changes that we need to make or how robust your allocation definitions are within Sage Intacct. And if you're building upon different allocations, just gives us a chance to test in your environment to make sure that it's running smoothly within your environment. The good thing about dynamic allocations, as we show within the presentation, is since it's held within a separate user-defined book, we can run transactions based off your actual real life balances. And if we run that and it's not up to the transactions that you are expecting, we can always delete those out and run those transactions until we get it pinpointed to the information that you need. So that's one of the main good things about dynamic allocations and being able to run that coinciding with your production environment and not have any effects on any balances that you may have or transactions within your environment.
Okay. And then the last question, have you worked with organizations in my industry, healthcare, and what unique allocation challenges did you address?
Yeah, healthcare is definitely one of the industries that we use. It depends on, and I've used this with different healthcare industries that have different locations, and they need to allocate expenses throughout different locations within their business models. So this really helps to pinpoint where different expenses are being used and how it could be better used in the future. Also, it can be held to show any type of profitability that you may have within the session. So healthcare is definitely one of the main users of this of dynamic allocations, also along with any type of nonprofit, as we can see dynamic allocation can be used for a whole breadth of different type of allocations. You can use it for bad debt expense. You can use it for any type of royalty allocations that you may need as well. So I think most industries can use dynamic allocations to better streamline different information, both on the expense side and the revenue side within their business needs.
Great. Thank you, Brent. We're at the end of our time. I want to thank everyone for attending and for your questions and your comments. We really appreciate having an energized audience, that's for sure. And Brent, thank you so much for the valuable information that you shared, both on dynamic allocations, but also the pretty rich release notes that came out. So we appreciate that as well. And we hope to see you at a future Hot Topics event. Thanks, everyone.